In this system, in this present system, we have been largely shielded from consequence. Well, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have been largely shielded from consequences on different levels. We've developed systems that delay consequence or passes it on to someone else entirely. To succeed, you don't have to be accountable for the outcomes you produce at the expense of others. You just have to either be congruent enough to stand on your desires long enough for them to take form, or follow a pre-written path and succeed that way. But when it comes to governance, that is not an option. Your consent for this jurisdiction requires for you to own accountability for consequence, and you cannot pass it on to somebody else. In this video, I'll break down why plausible deniability disqualifies you from governance and how outcome ownership is a prerequisite for building realms. To get the full understanding of governance, I would like for you to click the link in the description down below to watch my video titled "What is Governance? What it really means to have the jurisdiction of a governor." That video will give you a foundation to understand every single thing I'm going to be talking about in this video today. Anyways, hello, I'm Naomi Olatayo, the Brand Priestess, and I awaken founders and high-ranked leaders to their governance. Here we talk about brand strategy, architecture for realm building, realm authoring, and empire building. And if this video resonates with you at all, make sure to download my free audio transmission titled From Leadership to Governance, Recognizing Your Unclaimed Jurisdiction. It's a free 35-minute audio for prolific founders and leaders who realize that the cost of operating beneath their true assignment and jurisdiction is costing them more than they're willing to pay anymore. Anyways, let's get into today's video. At the end of the day, we don't have to be accountable for ourselves. Some of us are more predisposed to the consequences of our actions because of how we've been socialized, i.e. women, but generally you don't have to be. Like, you can abuse your child as much as you want as long as you don't get caught and they don't retaliate. You can siphon your wife's energy and waste her time and still be able to keep her around by feigning weaponized incompetence. You can blame your subordinate for something that was really your fault, but because you have the authority and the trust of everyone else, you get away with it. And I'm sure we've all been victim to these things. Like, I've experienced each one of those things in my life, and I'm sure you have too. We live in a culture where we're largely removed from consequence. And so it produces a collective full of cowards, if I'm being blunt, of cowards who run from reciprocity and they can't stand to see themselves. And that's a problem because if our system is built off of evading consequence, we all become complicit. And then we all lack a tolerance for truth. The unfortunate thing is that our society is not looking for coherence per se. They're looking for, can you get the job done? Can you produce results? So you can be a brilliant surgeon and still be a predator. You can be a talented CEO and a sociopath. You can be a gifted pastor and an abuser. You can be a charismatic activist and be a narcissistic abuser to your children at home. You could be a famous artist and a rapist. I don't want to get my video taken down, but yeah, a rapist. And you could be a community leader and still be a tyrant because the system doesn't require morality. It requires performance. And people stay misinformed about themselves because there is no structural pressure to become informed. You don't have to know yourself. In fact, everything in our system, all the structural pressures lead you away from being self-informed and to seeing yourself and to being accountable. Because it slows you down. You're not that useful when you're grieving. You're not useful when you're healing. You're not useful when you're healed, because healed people don't accept as much shit as unhealed people. That's just how it is. When it comes to governance though, that frame does not work. Most people try to live their life according to structuring their relationships so they can extract what they want, keep access, keep control, avoid accountability, avoid being seen clearly, avoid being pinned down, avoid being responsible for impact, to avoid being responsible for desire and avoiding being responsible for harm. But when it comes to governance, those things don't work. Typically, people are, when they are avoiding, it's these 3 specific things. Shame, they don't want to feel bad about themselves. Loss, they don't want to lose access, reputation, or comfort, or change. They don't want to become someone new. And luckily for us, the system rewards that. It's very easy to avoid feeling bad about yourself. There are several vices that you can take. You don't want to lose access. It is encouraged almost socially. Sometimes it's not even spoken. It's just through learning, through watching other people's behavior, that if you don't want to lose access to something, you just avoid it according to how you need to. And if you don't want to change, you don't have to, because you don't have to change within capitalism, within this system. You just have to be useful. And like I was saying before, this is a form of cowardice, but it's also a form of spiritual laziness. It's a refusal to self-govern, and it's a refusal to be an adult. And so many of us are little kids in adult bodies, and then we wonder why things are the way they are. On a small scale, this system shows up in how a partner might financially abuse their spouse. On a medium scale, pastors are touching children. And on a large scale, we have billionaires and corporations destroying lives while everyone eats it. It's the same mechanism, a lack of character protected by lack of consequence. If there were true consequences, we wouldn't be doing these things. Why do you think people hide what they do? They hide because they don't want the consequence. That's a form of avoidance. How many times have you been in a relationship or a situationship, whatever it is, and they just kind of strung you along and breadcrumbed you? There was just no consequence for them. You would still show up anyways, and that's not to cast blame on you, but even if you have no boundaries or not, there is no structural or cultural pressure to be coherent and to face consequences. Even in government, how long have we been trying to indict these people? And there's just no consequence. This system absorbs harm. And the system, I mean people. It's typically women or children, and then the minorities. The reason why God gave me the mandate to wake up the governors is because things will not change. The thing is that I've been realizing recently is that as someone who has grown up hearing so many leaders and guides talking about changing the system, and sometimes it'll be something as small as recycling more, sometimes it's as big as protesting and overthrowing the government, whatever it is, I realized that things won't change. Because it's as if we're trying to restructure a system that has it baked in a governing logic that absolves people of consequence. This is why people of governance need to wake up. Because governance brings you into direct contact with responsibility, consequence, and outcomes. Governance says, or those who perpetuate governance and have the office of governance, it says you don't get to outsource your responsibility to your childhood. It doesn't matter what happened. You're still accountable. You don't get to outsource your ethics to your nervous system. Just because your nervous system is shot doesn't mean that you're not accountable. You don't get to outsource your impact to your intentions, your decisions to your trauma story, your consequences to the nearest empathetic person. That's not how it works. Right now, we are governed by a lot of people without the jurisdiction or the alignment to produce outcomes that don't harm people. Governance begins through our embodiment. You don't just get to say, I set the tone in this specific valued way, and then your whole life contradicts that. That's what our present people of power do. Governors lead through their embodiment. They author realms through their embodiment. Your realm, your vision exists through you, as you, right now because that's where it is. And it takes the shape according to your embodiment. Who are you? Are you accountable for yourself? And so if you have recognized yourself as a governor through my content, this now requires for you to build a capacity for truth and your tolerance for being accountable for your actions and the outcomes of your life. Sovereignty. The thing is, those who recognize themselves as a governor and begin moving in that direction, it's not like there is any system for it right now. Like, I'm presently building what I can, but there is no reward in that sense. Like, I guess when you build a business, you might feel rewarded in like the funding you get or just the process. It's not like this isn't, I'm not gonna say it's not fun. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that there is structurally nothing holding you accountable but you. You are our future world's governors and leaders. And as this system collapses, it will only ever collapse if we have something to transition it into. And again, if you haven't watched my video, What is Governance? Please watch that because this is important for you to understand. The thing is that so many of us are governed by laws that uphold this system, and we think that we can just change the system and think that things will change. That's not how it works. That's almost like saying, I was so severely traumatized, but if I just change my actions, things will change. No, we submit to the level of our nervous system every time. That's the same thing in society and systems. Governors work with the nervous system of reality. And so if you're claiming right now to be a governor, if you've been watching my content, you've been getting the confirmations, you already finished my governance archetypal series playlist, and you already understand your archetype, and then we take a deeper look and you can't even tell people how you feel without spiraling, or you keep people you don't like near you because you don't want to face the consequences of them not being in your presence, or you maintain certain practices within your company that are harming or at least siphoning from your employees, but you don't change it because you like your paycheck. That's not how it works. That's a perpetuation of the system. Another video that is good to watch is also titled Realm Authors versus System Reinforcers, Intro to Governance. This will all be in a playlist, by the way. I think I'll link it down below. But the thing is, it's so easy to reinforce what exists. It's a whole other thing to govern. That is what we need. And that requires for you to be accountable. Those who avoid consequences don't govern. We're far removed from consequences now, but I invite you to do this exercise with me. Where in your life, business, and infrastructure do you only benefit at the expense of others or someone else? Where have you been resisting alignment to favor your ego? And where have you resisted change because you just don't want to? Answering those questions will reveal to you where you've been plausibly denying something. There is always a consequence. Just because you avoid or plausibly deny what the consequences are, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. Someone's eating the cost. Somebody, and it's usually a woman or a child or a person of color. So I ask you again, if you are someone who recognizes yourself as a governor and you feel so hyped up by my words and my teachings and my content that you've been finding, and you're remembering your vision and you're executing, again, where have you been resisting consequence? Because if you can't handle consequence on the scale that only impacts you and then a few people around you, then you're not governing. That's not how it works. It's not even about like you just avoiding to choose it. It's about you just won't have the capacity for it. You won't have the capacity for your own assignment. You literally will not move in accordance with your assignment. You think you might, but you will never. It's almost like putting a hand on a hot fire where our brain can't keep our hand there. I even heard somebody say that we can't hold our breath and actually knock ourselves out because our brain takes over and makes us breathe again or something like that. I don't know how true that is, but that's how it is. It's just not gonna work. Sovereignty is becoming accountable for the inevitable, and the inevitability of outcomes and the consequences that happen regardless of your awareness of it. You've been given a vision to govern, and it's time to become accountable for yourself and the realm that you're authoring. That is your responsibility. Anyways, if you have not already, I would like for you to download my free audio transmission titled From Leadership to Governance, Recognizing Your Unclaimed Jurisdiction. It is a 35-minute audio for prolific leaders and founders to listen to when they recognize that the cost of operating beneath their true jurisdiction has become too expensive to justify. Anyways, I thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to click the bell and the subscription button to be notified when I post again. Anyways, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.